All right, this is going to show you how to design um, your database, actually build it. Okay, first thing you need to have is Postgres installed with pgAdmin. So I'm in pgAdmin here, right? And I've just started it. I need to enter my passwords. Couple of things I think I've said before. You really need to remember your passwords. All right. So you should also review the Google Slides on creating tables and setting up and on SQL, because we're going to build this with SQL. So I'm going to enter my password. All right. And I'm going to do OK. And I'm going to expand my server. And I have 3 servers here, which you do not. But I've been working on this for a long time. So I'm going to add my password for a SQL Server for the 12. You should only have 12. And also you'll find that you don't have all these databases, right? But I have 9 databases. You should have like 1. And that's fine, right? This is just that you're bringing it up clean and mine isn't clean. All right, so what I want to do is right-click on the database node and create a database. And I'm going to call it Farm Co-op. Don't put any spaces in here, right? It's really important that it not have any spaces. I'm going to save. And when I save it, it takes it a while, but that's all there is to creating a database. So if I look under, notice I have 10 now. And if I look under databases, I'm going to close Community Assist here. We have the Farm Co-op here. When I open it, it shows the different objects in here, but it doesn't have any tables yet. Tables, by the way, are found under Schema, Tables. And when I click on that, that's empty. Okay? So what I want to do next is to open a query tool. So I'm going to go up to Farm Co-op, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to choose Query Tool. So here we have a query tool. This lets you write SQL. Okay. So I have SQL is easier than some languages. I'm going to expand the scratchpad over here. So SQL is fairly English-like, but it's not case sensitive. Those are good things. All right, let the airplane go by. You can break lines wherever you want. Okay, that didn't quite fit, so let's just break that line there. And you can, spacing doesn't matter as long as it's clear what the keywords are. As long as the terms are clear. Can't type. Still, it's a programming language. Everything must be spelled correctly. All commas have to be in place. And each command ends with a semicolon. Okay. So those are some of the things about SQL. Again, you should look at the Google Slides. So what I'm going to do is I am going to create the table person. If we looked at this thing here, I'm going to make it big again. we have our person thing, a person ID, last name, first name, email, phone, date added. All right, so here what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some SQL that is used to create tables, and it's really simple. It's just create table, and you give the table a name. And then you do an opening and closing parentheses. There will be a semicolon after the last parentheses. So I'm going to do person ID, and then you give it, that's the name of the field, and then you want to give it a data type. Serial is not actually a data type. What it is it's a function that auto numbers the thing. And I want to tell it that it's a primary key. And then I do a comma, and I go down to the next field, which will be last name and text. We'll call it text because it'll be a text type. In other databases, you might want to do this as varchar. Text works in Postgres, so we'll just leave it at that. And I'm going to say that it's not null, which means that you can't leave it empty. There has to be a last name. And then I'm going to do a first name. Notice also I'm not making any spaces here. Spaces are illegal in naming. It'll also be a text, but I'm not going to make it not null. That means you could leave the first name empty if you really wanted to. I'm going to do an email, and I'm going to make it a text, and this also I'm going to make not null. Emails are not negotiable. We need those. Phone, I'm also going to make it text. You may be tempted to make it a number, but it isn't good as a number. There's, for one thing, some area codes start with zeros, I think, and there are also it's numbers that are too long to be an integer, so it's just best to make it a text. And I'm also going to let it be nullable. Again, a null is something that is empty. It's not a zero, not an empty text. It's a missing piece of data. It's something that isn't entered. All right, then the date added. And I'm going to make this a timestamp. You could also just do date. And I'm going to give it a default value. And I'm going to say the default is the current timestamp, which will put in the time that the computer has. If you don't enter another date, it will enter the timestamp for you. All right. So that's the first table. I'm going to create another table. I'm not going to do all of them. I have given you a script for this, and you'll be doing 4 tables on your own, but I'm going to do most of the rest, but in this video I'm only going to do a few of them just to demonstrate some points. We've talked about each of these fields, so let's talk about job type. We'll do the job type one. Again, another table, create table. These don't have to be in caps, but I'm doing it in caps. I'm going to do this as job type. Again, the opening and closing parentheses. There will be a semicolon at the end of the parentheses. I'm going to give it a job type ID. Again, we'll make it serial, so it's an auto number, and we'll declare it a primary key. I'm going to give it a type name, so whatever the name of it is, and I'm just going to make that text. And it can't be null, otherwise there's no point to this. Comma, notice all the commas. Comma, 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 no comma. Okay, comma, comma, and this last one will be description, text, and no comma, because it's the last one, and I'm going to allow it to be nullable. All right, so then I'm going to create employee. Create. I'm doing this partially to show you how to handle a many-to-many. Again, it doesn't have to be caps. Create table, employee. All right. So I am going to do employee ID, serial, and primary key. And I'm going to do person key, right? Or person ID. And it'll be an integer, because that is what actually the serial produces, is a series of integers. And it will reference person, and it will reference the person ID field in person. This is how you create a foreign key. This makes this a foreign key. And then I'm going to give it a start date. Now we don't really care about the time here, so I'm going to give it date as a data type, and I'm going to say can't be null. You can't leave that out. So there's our employee table. Okay, so now I want to show you how to do the linking table. Since one employee can have many jobs, and each job can be assigned to many employees. So this is a little different. And I am going to so we're going to create a table. They all start with create table, employee job, or whatever I named it in the other thing. I think it was employee job type, but employee job would work too. Let's just do employee job. Get into parentheses and semicolon. All right, so this will have two fields. It'll have employee ID, which is an integer, and references, employee, and the field employee ID. Right? So that makes that a foreign key. And then we'll do job type ID, integer, references, job type. That's what I did it right. And job type ID, the field inside there. All right, now that provides the foreign keys. Remember how this one, look at the diagram. The linking table has two foreign keys, but they're also part of a compound primary key. So I want to show you how to do the compound primary key. I am going to do primary key, and then in parentheses, employee ID, comma, job type ID. That's all you have to do, and that creates a primary key that is composite, that consists of these two. So they're both foreign keys and a primary key. Now I'm going to show you one more table, but I am going to cheat a little on this. I am going to go to the script that I made you, so it's under pages. And I'm going to go to the SQL. You won't see all of these, by the way. Here's SQL for co-op database. All right. See the script? I'm going to show you how to use this in a moment. But right now I'm just going to copy the inventory and go over here and paste. All right. So things are a little wonky in lineation, but again, that doesn't matter. All right. So the thing about this that I wanted to show you is just some other field types. So we have the integer. So that's for the supplier ID. I've shown you those before. Entry date is just a date. Text and text for units. Price per unit is numeric. numeric is a data type that allows a number to have decimal parts, right? Integer won't work for a price because it wouldn't allow you to have any cents, just dollars. So numeric allows you to have decimal parts. Integer, again, is a whole number. Quantity is always a whole number. Expiration date is date, and then wastage, again, is integer. The main thing I wanted to show you is the numeric. This is what you need for money types and other things that could have decimals. For instance, in the sale, where you have the discounted, it's probably a percent, so you probably need numeric. All right. So that's how you create tables. Now, I'm not going to have you create all of these. I'm going to make a new another query tool separate from what we just did. Now, you could run those if you want, but I'm going to go back to the co-op database here, and I'm going to highlight the whole script that I made for you. All the way down to here. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to paste it into the new query window. Again, it doesn't matter if it's a little honky. So a couple of things. This is a multi-line comment in case you want to comment scripts. And these are single line comments where you do the double dash. All right, so I am going to just run the whole script. Now you should have this, something query returned successfully. The other thing that you should find is that if you go to the farm co-op, you open up schemas, and you go down to through public, and you go to tables now, and if you do a refresh, you'll find that you have all the tables that we've just created. Okay. So the script created all those tables for us. And if you open up, say, address, and you look at columns, it'll show you all the columns that are in there. I had an address 2 here, which I did not have in my diagram, but there it is. So that will create all of those. Now your assignment is, if we go back to assignments, it's an individual assignment, and it will be create database and tables. And what it's going to ask you to do are to create 4 of the tables. They're the ones that we're going to create are the purchase and the purchase detail, and the sale and the sale detail. All right, and it gives you some description of how to do that. And you can, basically try to write that script up just to give you some practice. I'm not making you do the whole database, just those 4 tables. So you want to copy and paste the script, and then you want to create these additional 4 tables. And I give you some idea of what the data types and everything should be. Things to watch for and what to turn in. One thing I want to show you, let's go back here. We have all of this. I just want to show you that when you run them, if you want to run things one at a time, I'm going to say select star from person, which is a query to select everything from the person table. There's nothing in it, but this will run. If I want to run only this and not all of those above, I can highlight just that one statement, and it will do that. It'll run, and it'll show me there's no data in there, but it runs that one statement. If I don't highlight it and I try to run, I will get errors that the person already exists. You can only create a table once, right? So you can't run it twice. But you can run one statement at a time by highlighting it. All right, I think that's it for this video. Have fun making the other 4 tables.